became a career firefighter with the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Service, the chief of the medical division, or EMS, the unofficial historian of the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Services. Over 65,000 digital images and newspaper articles, magazine articles, etc. Episode 25-12, 99 years ago, Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department. The Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department Carnival by George Massey, August 2nd to the 7th, 1926. This will be the souvenir program of the third annual Ellicott City Carnival held in Ellicott City. Just some of the highlights as far as advertisements: Green Cross Motor Company, which is on Hamilton Street behind the old Ellicott City Post Office, Chevrolet Sales and Service. B.H. Shipley Sr. was employed there as a mechanic for many, many years. Just an image of the interior of the Green Cross garage, looking at individuals working on vehicles, etc. The Green Cross garage on Hamilton Street back in its heyday. To the far left, you can see a truck. That's actually Columbia Pike back yonder. Just an article talking about the Green Cross garage. You can pause the podcast if you want to take a look at the image and the information that's here. This is an image of Hamilton Street today, where the Green Cross garage used to be. They're sort of in the left center is where the garage used to be, that spanned from Hamilton Street over to Columbia Pike. It was destroyed by a fire back in the 1980s that is. Apparently they also had a showroom, a new car showroom, as part of the Green Cross garage, 8301 Hamilton Street. This image was taken around the 1930. Just additional information about the carnival, just showing the nightly events, various things that you could enjoy as a participant in supporting the carnival and the Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department. Each night there was music that was going to be provided. As you can see, the Owella Band, the Savage Band, the Evening Sun Band, and the Vernon Rogers Orchestra. That were some of the highlights back in the day. Just an image of the volunteer firemen of Howard County. Previously, I'd mentioned that in the early 20s, the Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department actually changed their name from the Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Department to the Volunteer Firemen of Howard County, since at that time, Ellicott City was the only fire department in all of Howard County, so they felt that changing the name of the organization reflected better who and what they were. Images just showing the fire apparatus at that time. This picture they posed in front of the courthouse up on Court Avenue. Just a listing of most of the runs that the Ellicott City Fire Station ran from September 1925 to July 22nd, 1926. Less than 100, so they weren't that busy by today's standards. Some of the stations in Howard County probably run 100 calls within several days compared to this year's activity that you see in front of you. Additional advertisements: petty cords, tires and tubes. They also sold batteries, recharged, repaired, and of all things, renting batteries. I never knew that you would rent a battery. Plus they had radios that could be installed as well. Again, just another image of the firefighters running a hose stream, working apparatus, working a fire pump, portable fire pump. At the bottom you can see the treasurer's report of receipts and disbursements of funds over the year. The Ellicott City Times building back in the day, back in 1926, and the Ellicott City Times building today in 2025. The Eastern Sons Funeral Directors was one of several Undertaker funeral homes within Ellicott City, and as you can see, they boast new Studebaker funeral coaches and Studebaker limousines, because they did run somewhat of an Uber service back in the day. They also boasted a private funeral chapel within their structure. Again, this is just the Easton's funeral home back in 1926, and you can see the various vehicles that they had at their disposal: hearse, but also they'd had an ambulance that they did operate in the Ellicott City area. The Eastern Funeral Home building that was there until about 2024, Lower Main Street at Tiber Alley, between Tiber Alley and Maryland Avenue. Finally taken down due to flood abatement on Lower Main Street. Again, just another of the new Sayers and Scottville ambulance for moving sick and injured individuals that they boasted having. This is operated and available day or night by Easton and Sons. Just a close-up of the units that they operated. Easton Sons not only provided funeral services, but ambulance service as well. They would transport the infirm to area hospitals and convalescent facilities. Compare the car on the far right to the one next to it. The far right car has a sign in the window that says invalid coach. It has ornate windows and a stretcher in the upright position can be seen. The car to its left, the sign says funeral coach, and the windows are plain. Another image of Easton Sons structure back in the early 1900s. There were several department stores within Ellicott City. Rosenstock's was one of them. Just an early scene looking west from Lower Main Street. You can see Rosenstock's department store sign on the left-hand side, just above the vehicle on the left-hand side. On the right is Patapsco Pharmacy, Patapsco Bank, and actually the chief of police, his office was located there as well on the right-hand side. Just a better image of Lower Main Street. Again, you can see the streetcar tracks and the type of vehicles that were there back in the day. The department store Rosenstock's store can be easily seen and ascertained. Yet another image of the department store, Rosenstock's department store. Another advertisement for Cashmeyer's Service in Catonsville, and unbeknownst to me, apparently they were big in sales of Huffmobiles. Huffmobile sales and service. Have absolutely no idea what a Huffmobile would be, but they certainly were available to service and sell those. West Friendship Garage out in West Friendship had an advertisement, and it was operated by, looks like, Overland and Willis Knight. Just another image of an advertisement. P and Ditch Ice Cream and Candy, Reed Stetch Jewelers, and also Johnson's Pharmacy. That was an advertisement for that particular service. Another image of the court lunch cafeteria service. No tipping was allowed. And Kraft Brothers, the oldest established butcher shop in Ellicott City with fancy meats. Talbot's Hardware Store and Lumber Yard. Everything for the farmer, everything for the builder. International Motors, Harry R. DeVries had an advertisement out of Sykesville. International Motor Trucks, 3/4 to 1.5 ton speed trucks and 1.5 to 5 ton heavy duty trucks. Rebuilt, hand trucks, farm implements, house furnishings, hardware, paints, and oils. Of note in this particular page is the Earl. The Earl was the movie theater in Ellicott City at the time. Apparently it was classy, comfort, and convenience. The Earl had photoplays of comedies, tragedies, dramas, and of an educational nature. An image of the Earl, well, when it caught on fire, I believe that was around 1940, but this was the image of the Earl Theater back in the day on Lower Main Street, actually adjacent to Easton's funeral home on Lower Main Street. A fire in 1941 burned down the theater and several adjacent buildings, and as it said here, it also impacted the funeral home, Easton's funeral home, that was just to the left of the theater. A newspaper article back in December of 1941, just highlighting the tragedy of the fire that occurred. And again, you can stop the podcast momentarily just to read the entire article. The fire at the Earl Theater was a 3-alarm fire. It impacted Easton Sons Funeral Home, the Earl Theater, Roy's Cafe, and Coronas Brothers Restaurant. This occurred back on December 30th, 1941. Image to the rear of the theater that destroyed an apartment complex to the rear. This image was probably taken off at Tiber Alley, just off of Maryland Avenue. This image is taken of 8059 Main Street, 8059 to 8069 Main Street. Of the buildings that were involved, you can clearly see the Earl Theater that is there. And units are sort of wrapping up from the overnight fire. One of Ellicott City's engines that you can see is sort of heading towards the camera. You can see the streetcar tracks clearly in the center of the street. Again, just an image to the rear of the structure that had been involved in fire. Just an additional picture of the Earl fire, Earl Theater fire, and adjacent buildings. Evening Sun had a picture that was published on December 30th of 41. Multiple alarm fire Tuesday, December 30th, 1941, the Main Street near Tiber Alley. Yates and Son Groceries and Meats, Fruits and Vegetables, and Quality and Service, which was a trademark of Yates' store for many, many years. And this is a image of Yates' store probably around 2000 or so, showing the store, the diversity of the store, etc. Hamilton Street would be just to the right of this particular picture. Firestone gum dipped balloon prices. I have no idea what a gum dipped tire tire is, but apparently that was supposedly a great selling point back in the day. The Buick dealership was located at the Burgess Garage, which I believe would have been just west of what is now Ellicott Mill Drive. Advertisement for Chrysler, not totally sure what that means. 450, great 60, cars 70 and 80, not sure what it means, but highlighting the Ellicott City Garage for Chrysler. Up in the top left-hand corner, Fortify for firefighting. Firefighters give you protection 24 hours a day, every day. I'm not sure whether or not that's a carbon tetrachloride extinguisher, which if it is, was banned as illegal and actually lethal to use on a fire because of the toxic fumes that it released. Also, Valmus Brothers Confectionery and Quick Lunch Service. They also sold cigars, tobacco, and cigarettes. And we can see here just the Valmus Brothers Lunch and Confectionery, actually adjacent to a Rosenstock's store on Lower Main Street. Advertisement showing another funeral home that was in town. Hilsinger and Son Funeral Directors and Embalmers. Call us for prompt, efficient, and courteous service. Service at all times. I didn't know that Ellicott City could support 3 or 4 different funeral homes or embalmers, but apparently did for a period of time. Valmus Confectionery, Valmus Brothers, I guess their highlight was selling Horn's ice cream. The Patapsco Jewelry Shop, you tell them, big boy, you know where you bought yours. Cash if you have it, credit if you want it. Paul H. Longrum, the only wholesale confectioner in Howard County. A couple of his vehicles posing in front of the Howard County Courthouse. Prominent here are actually 2 items. One is West End Garage, west of Main Street. At the time of 1926, apparently they were distributors of Studebaker and Chrysler car, repairing any kind of car, truck, tractor, and acetylene welding and cutting. Prominent, though, is the Standard Gasoline Esso station, a giant for power Standard Motor Oil, which was located at Frederick and Columbia Roads. This location was in existence until I believe the 60s at some point. This image is taken from Columbia Road looking towards the Howard House, but you can see a service station there in the left central portion of the image. And again, just a wider image showing the gas station, Esso gas station, Howard House, and adjacent buildings. Ellicott City service station, Petticoat Sales and Service, and apparently they had the emblem of economy and approval by whoever this organization was. They did many different services, of which they provided financial service, bail furnished up to $5,000, and they also provided free legal service. Quite a distinction for a service station, I would say. Again, they're talking about Kaplan Store coming very soon, and you can take a look at the advertisement and the many things that they indicated they would have once they opened up. Kaplan Store, you can see the right center of your picture with the sign out in front of their establishment. As I said, there are several funeral homes. We discussed 2 earlier. This one is the Scott M. Starr and Mary Starr Funeral Home. 20 years of practical experience. When air services are required, it is a real satisfaction to know that everything may be entrusted to us, that it will be done completely and satisfactorily. Funeral home directors and embalmers. You can call them day or night. They also offer limousine and taxi services, I guess when business is slow. Just an image of the Star building on the right-hand side behind the horses and wagon of the Star Funeral Home with their fleet of vehicles. The business had a limousine, a hearse, and 2 touring cars. Note that part of the business was the hiring of autos, which is the early version of a taxi service. And it also appears, as I'm looking at this image, the car to the left, it appears that there may be a gas pump there, presumably for the funeral home people. Also in the top left, you can see the steeple of the Howard County Courthouse. And on the lower right-hand side, you can also see the top of the Ellicott City Volunteer Fire Station. Taylor Store, which ended up being another hallmark of Ellicott City. Jeweler, furniture, and optics. Pay homage to the Continental Milling Company, Donut Mill, which was part of Ellicott City's history from the 1800s to the 2000 or so. Patapsco Pharmacy, another hallmark business that existed within Ellicott City. And finally, the Ellicott City Motor Company, Ford Service and Sales. Have you seen the latest Model 4 cars furnished in Duco? If not, you can see those vehicles at the Fireman's Carnival, West Main Street, a mile above the end of the streetcar line. Please use your remaining heartbeats wisely and not waste a single precious one.